All right, everybody. You guys have no idea how happy I am right now to be back talking about something that I'm so fucking passionate about that is through. Honestly, I was a little bit upset about it at first, but now I'm a little bit happy about it. Politics has forced one of my biggest passions in the world to become politically relevant. And now I have an excuse to talk about it on stream. That passion being The Lord of the Rings. Listen, if you watch me, then you know I am a fucking Lord of the Rings nerd. I got my extended edition Blu-rays right up there, sitting on the thing there. My extended edition Blu-rays, the original trilogy of movies, Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. It also has the director's commentary tracks too. So they're like, each one of those boxes is like 4 or 5 discs, okay, and they're all Blu-rays. It's one of my most prized possessions. There's a reason why I present it for all of you to look at, okay? I bring up Lord of the Rings all the time. I talk about it all the time. I've done like 4 or 5 watch parties of the Lord of the Rings movies in my Discord server in the time that I've done streaming in like the last 4 years. Just those 3 movies alone, I've done like 4 or 5 watch parties of. I am a massive Lord of the Rings fan. I don't even remember the first time that I watched the Lord of the Rings because I believe I was sat in front of the TV watching it before I was even capable of forming memory. So just as far back as I can remember, I've loved Lord of the Rings. One of my earliest video game memories is playing Battle for Middle-earth on my uncle's computer, or that PS2 Return of the King game on the PlayStation 2, those Lord of the Rings games that were on PS2. I put God knows how many hours into Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. I've read The Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings books, and the Silmarillion. I'm actually going to go ahead and give them all a reread, quote unquote. In reality, I'm going to listen to them in audiobook form again because it's been a while and I want to brush up for the Lord of the Rings Rings of Power show that's come out. My nose will not stop itching. Something needs to be done. Make nose itches illegal, please. God, Biden, fix it. With that said, new Lord of the Rings show has come out. And obviously, I'm thinking about getting back into rereading. By that, I mean re-listening, or listening to, because I read for the first time books, listening to audiobooks of the Tolkien saga of Middle-earth and of Valinor, and the story of Arda, and so what have you. I really do love the entire story. I'm a massive fan of it. I've been nerding out about it since I was a little kid, okay? And now it has been rebooted, more or less. Lord of the Rings and its story, Tolkien, has become culturally relevant again and in the mainstream because Amazon, about, 3 or 4 years ago, purchased the TV rights to The Lord of the Rings. Not to the Silmarillion, not to The Hobbit, not to all of Tolkien's works. The Lord of the Rings. Now, the Lord of the Rings movies actually only covered, a small amount of the story of the Lord of the Rings. You see, the Lord of the Rings and most of Tolkien's writing tend to come with a massive epilogue, prologue, and index, and there's another word. There's a word that I'm thinking of that I'm forgetting right now. Literally like a mini historical text about the world that it takes place in. Appendices, thank you. Tolkien really loved fleshing out his world. He was obsessed with the world that he created, much to our great enjoyment. His obsession is our passion, okay? And frankly, I could not be upset about that. Now, here's the thing. While the Lord of the Rings movies by Peter Jackson did do a decent job of adapting the story of the books, let's be clear. The Lord of the Rings movies were extraordinarily controversial when they came out. The movies were so fucking controversial for a variety of reasons. One of them being, by the way, Ian McKellen being gay. Did you guys know that? Ian McKellen got shit when he was cast as Gandalf originally in the Lord of the Rings movies because he was openly gay. Times never change, do they, chat? Times never change, do they? With that said, New shows come out, everyone's talking about it, and they're talking about it in a negative way. Amazon decides to basically expand on a section of the Lord of the Rings history that they have the rights to that wasn't really touched on in the Lord of the Rings movies, and frankly adding a little bit of, let's just say a lot of fan fiction to areas that weren't very fleshed out by Tolkien himself. Now, of course, the show was made with the blessing of the Tolkien estate, so it's not like this was made as like a horrible, evil mockery or insult to Tolkien's writing. The Tolkien estate gave them blessings on the story and on the contents of said story. Regardless, though, they do their own like personal additions and whatnot, just like Peter Jackson did. And of course, something that was announced very early on for this show, which would of course take place in the Second Age as opposed to the Third Age the War of the Ring happened in. One of the biggest things that came out early on that got people upset before anybody saw any promotional material that like substantially talked about the show or told us what it would be about or what it would be like or what it would feel like or what the acting was like or what the set design was like or anything like that or what the music was like. Before any of that, we saw some of the casting. And some of that casting, very noticeably, if you're a fan of the screen adaptations of Middle-earth, had non-white people in it. That is a problem for nerd culture. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and say that every single person who saw that minorities were cast in this show were mad about it because they hate minorities. I've seen people trying to strawman me on this, and that's simply not what I'm saying. A lot of them are upset that it makes no sense for them to be there. That to include minorities in this work of fiction is to go as far as to disrespect Tolkien, or as light as to break the immersion of the viewer. Now, while that is not overt racism, like overt bigotry, like, no minorities in my nerd media, that's not exactly what that is. It demonstrates the fact that in their eyes, they are either unsettled by change when it involves including non-white characters into something that they've previously loved for a very long time, or I should say, it means that non-white characters have to exist for a reason. Because if they're there for no reason, then it's just woke virtue signaling in their eyes. They can't just look past it when the race has no bearing on the character. It has to make damn good sense for them to look past it. A good example of this is the hilarious instance that happened recently where the Critical Drinker made a big video called Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, Who Even Cares? A couple months before the show actually came out. And then he made a bunch of tweets when the night the show did come out, like shit-talking the show, like, man, no one's talking about this show. It must really be flopping. What a shame. That really sucks. In sort of like a tongue-in-cheek, like, haha, I was right, go woke, go broke kind of way. But then very quickly, the articles came out, like, revealing the reviews and the ratings on House of the Dragon, the fact that it was, like, breaking records for viewership, and that the diversity casting, as they said, had absolutely no effect on its viewership. And Critical Drinker literally changed the name of his video from months ago after the fact and has like been sweeping everything that he said previously about that show under the rug, as well as a bunch of the other grifters. But now a new show has come along that it's acceptable, or that it was acceptable to shit talk and say was 100% going to be bad, and you should be happy that it's going to be bad. It wasn't just that they were, as they'll say, correctly predicting it would be bad. They were celebrating their predictions of it being bad and hoping that it would be bad. They wanted it to be bad. This Lord of the Rings show and this Game of Thrones show as well, House of the Dragon. They have staked their reputations and their income on these shows being as bad and as woke as they make them out to be. Critical Drinker that bad. I remember watching a Star Wars video a while ago by him, but that's all I saw. Someone give me a rundown on the dude. He's just a run-of-the-mill chud. He really is. He doesn't go as far as most of them do. He's not as shameless as like the Quartering or whatever, or like no bullshit, but he really is in line with them. I mean, like, besides his associations, I don't like to do guilt by association, because if I did that, then I'd be in a whole lot of trouble. But like the stuff that he himself like stands for, the stuff that he contributes to in regards to like collaborations and stuff, the stuff that he's even done, like the dude made a video that was basically shit talking a show before it came out, the new Game of Thrones show, for being woke, and then it came out, and he complained. Or no, it came out and like nobody was complaining about its quality, and like it wasn't popular to shit on it, so he went back on everything, and now he's complaining about this new Lord of the Rings show because it is acceptable to shit on, and we're gonna get into that in a moment, okay? That's just one example. Critical Drinker, hey, if you see this, feel free to hit me up. I'll have you on my stream. We can talk about this new Lord of the Rings show and the cultural hysteria around it. The reason I'm actually here to talk about this is, well, just how deranged people are about it, to the extent that the actors are receiving death threats and blowback for it. I'm going to start with doing this, okay? Now, hypers in chat if you've seen this new Lord of the Rings show, even one episode. I've personally seen all 3 of the episodes that have come out so far at least twice, and I like them pretty good. I like them pretty good. I think they're pretty good. My interest is piqued. I feel like they've set up some interesting mysteries and some interesting storylines. Obviously, as a Tolkien nerd, I know that there are some very distinct events that are just inevitable and on the horizon that they're building up to. The biggest one, the one that I think is probably the most on the horizon, is going to be the Forging of the Rings. Right now, I think the biggest, like, big plot line that, like, you want to keep an eye on that's going to have the biggest, long-term effect is Celebrimbor forging the Rings of Power with Sauron, and then eventually Galadriel getting her Ring of Power, the Ring of Water, and the Elven Ring of Water, and it's going to start affecting her. She's going to have to, battle the darkness or touch the darkness, as they've been foreshadowing. People have said, like, come up with excuses for, like, the writing being bad or whatever, but in reality, only 3 episodes have come out. You can't really claim the writing is bad in a show that the whole first season hasn't even been released of yet. I would agree if, like, the dialogue was cringy, but every example that people point to of the dialogue being cringy, it's just not. Like, I've seen people say this is CW level dialogue, and it's like, but it's not. This looks like something out of Lord of the Rings. What are you I just don't see it. I legitimately don't see it. It really feels like a lot of people who are bothered by the existence of, like, the diversity and the casting in this show have just come up with proxy excuses to complain about it. That's really what it feels like. And to give you a little bit of an idea on that, let's go ahead and look up Rings of Power is good. Okay? Presumably, if I look up on YouTube, Rings of Power is good. Even a show that, like, isn't very good, you'd think that there'd be some people out there coming out to, like, go to bat for it, right? You'd think there'd be some people at least being contrarian to be, like, in this show's defense or whatever, right? And many people who are in this chat right now watch the watch party, or watch this show in the watch party with me, and we're like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, at worst, it's just fantasy. Like, it's like your standard fantasy, right? It's far more exciting than early Game of Thrones was so far. However, very surprisingly, and this is what I find interesting, is when you search Rings of Power is good on YouTube, you don't really come up with a lot. You get Council of the Rings, which did an honest review of episode 3. I haven't seen this one yet. It's very possible this is like a good review. Though, yeah, actually, judging by the viewership, maybe this is a good review. I might watch that. The next one we have is Nerdrotic, with his demonic edits of the characters that are woke in the show that he doesn't like. The Rings of Power is really bad. Amazon panics. I believe this is his 50th video on the show so far. Man, they're milking the fuck out of this. We've got Ben Shapiro shitting on the show. This guy, I think, has been pretty fair to it from what I've seen of it, so I think this isn't a hate video. I think this one was fairly, like, decent. This is just a theory video. This is a hate video. This one I took a look at, and it seemed like satire. I couldn't get too far into it because the opening was, like, this might have been a genuine video, but it was like praising the show so much that I was cringing. I like the show, and this video was praising the show too much. Oh, it's satire? Okay, because I was cringing at it. I was like, okay, it's promising to start with, but this is way too much. So this is a satire. Okay. So here we have no doubt a conservative pretending to be like a woke lefty, like pretending to dick suck the show. This person doesn't seem very happy in their thumbnail. This is an Easter egg video. We got a quartering video. Ben Shapiro complaining about House of the Dragon. Like, you would think that for a show that objectively, at the very least, like just for eye candy alone, I'd say probably deserves a 5. Like, you'd think there'd be some more positive press about it here on YouTube, but no. And do you want to know why? Do you want to know why that when you search Rings of Power is good, nothing really comes up? It's because the channels that I follow, that I'm subscribed to, that are covering the show in any positive way, are getting hate bombed into nothing. I do watch a few like dedicated Tolkien lore channels that are being very fair to this show, and just because they aren't just shitting on it through and through, the fact that they are not saying that it is a abomination to Tolkien, that alone is causing their channels to get filled with hate, just nonstop hate comments, dislike bombs, all that shit. So YouTube isn't really promoting that content because it's not doing well. What is doing well, though, is the people that are shitting on the show, obviously. That's why that's all that was coming up. But what I find very interesting is that one of the most common criticisms from people like Nerdrotic and all these grifters complaining about this show, before it even came out, by the way, is the idea that the actors hate the fans. They keep saying over and over again, the actors hate the fans. The actors and the people working on this project hate the fans, and they hate Tolkien fans, and they're ruining what you love because they hate you. And realistically, that rhetoric has led to, well, let's go ahead and read the article. The Lord of the Rings cast announces threats to non-white actors depicting Middle-earth characters. The cast of The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power issued a statement Wednesday that denounced threats, harassment, and racism facing actors of color by people who have complained about the series' racially diverse Middle-earth. The cast said their show, which premiered on Amazon Prime Video last week, reflects the multicultural world that the Lord of the Rings author J.R.R. Tolkien envisioned. Oh yeah, that'd piss them off a lot. The chuds would get really mad at that line. Unlike the original The Lord of the Rings movies, the Amazon series takes place in the Second Age of Middle-earth and prominently features actors of color in roles such as an elven soldier, a queen regent, Harfoots, ancestors to hobbits, and a dwarf prince or a dwarf princess. Our world has never been all white. Fantasy has never been all white. Middle-earth is not all white. That is true, by the way. Like, Middle-earth canonically is not all white people, by the way. Like, Tolkien described the Haradrim and the people of the South being more like old-timey British words for describing brown. Our world has never been all white. Fantasy has never been all white. Middle-earth is not all white, the cast said in the statement, thanking their fans for supporting them. BIPOC belong in Middle-earth, and they are here to stay. That is indeed true. If that upsets you, then I wonder what you're mad about. The statement comes at a time when the show has faced some backlash over its casting decision by people who say the characters depicted in the show are different from what they envisioned reading in Tolkien's books. In his books, some elves are described as light-skinned and having long hair. Other actors of color on fantasy series have also been targeted by online trolls. Obviously, it references House of the Dragon and the Witcher Netflix show. The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is widely acknowledged as the most expansive television series produced. Or expensive, sorry. I'm having a hard time reading against this white background. I really wish this had a dark mode. With Amazon estimated to have spent more than $700 million on its first season, including buying the rights to adapt The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit for television, according to sources. Maybe they'll make a better Hobbit. That would be cool. The show's first season is based on the appendices in The Return of the King and centered around Elf Galadriel's quest to extinguish evil from Middle-earth. More than 25 million people tuned in to watch the show on its first day, Amazon said. The company has marketed the show widely, including on the packaging tape of Amazon Prime delivery boxes. Amazon Studio executives have stood by the cast. We support our cast 100% and stand behind them in every way, said Jennifer Salk in a statement last week. We are proud of them as actors and even more proud of them as people. We welcome discussion and even criticism around the series. However, we will not condone racism of any kind. The original Lord of the Rings movies, directed by Peter Jackson, had mainly white men in key roles, including Frodo the Hobbit, Gandalf the Wizard, and elven warrior Legolas. Even the cast from the original movies tweeted their support. I remember that all the chuds were saying that Amazon bought out the original actors to support the new show and to support the actors. But then we've got like some images. It's like from Sean Astin, who played Sam, and Elijah Wood, who played Frodo, with like some shirts on that show like, here, I'll show you guys. Look. Oh, look, Mr. Frodo. Look, Mr. Frodo, the Shire has gone woke, Mr. Frodo. Oh no. Frodo, Pippin, and Merry, they've gone woke. How could you do this to me? My God. Hashtag not my Shire. Listen, okay. That's really what stands out here, by the way. We welcome criticism about the show, but racism is not welcome. Because something I've noticed in the overwhelming amount of criticism for the show, and I don't think anybody can deny this, nobody who's shit-talking this show right now is shit-talking it with the desire for their criticism to be seen and for it to be used to make the show better. Those that watch the show and are shit-talking it right now, that genuinely feel like it could be better, who genuinely have problems with its writing, with like all the aspects of the show they complain about that aren't like having minorities in it. The way they frame their complaints are not in a way that could be productive. Usually when you watch like this season of a show was bad, let's take it apart video, usually it's like, damn, they could have done this, wouldn't it have been nice if they did this or that or that. It's constructive criticism. I watched a video last night called How I Would Have Written Season 8 of Game of Thrones, and like the way that criticism was written was in such a way that if the writers wanted to watch that video, they could take notes. They could learn from their mistakes watching that video. It was a conglomeration of fan criticism of the show. What fan criticism do the directors of this show have to get from this first season after this? Let's go ahead and look. You know what? Why not? Let's go ahead and look. Rings of Power criticism. You know, let's say that someone is looking to someone from the, one of the directors, one of the writers, somebody working on this show wants to learn, find out what the fans are complaining about with the show and make it better. Let's see what they have to work on. So first we have, the show is just bad because woman and like with foam coming out of her mouth, it seems, in the thumbnail, and then a black woman with demon eyes. By the way, they complained about this dwarf woman not having a beard. Me and my Discord watch partied the second episode where she appears the other night. She kind of does have a beard. They specifically made it so that she has like sideburns. She has more sideburns than the average like woman in Middle Earth would because she's a dwarf woman. They actively like gave her a little bit more, like dwarf women in this show have sideburns that come down further than most women in Middle Earth. The chuds just didn't pay attention. We noticed it while we were watching it the other night. We were pointing out like, wait, these dwarf women have like mutton chops or like sideburns coming down. Like, not to mention the only evidence, by the way, that dwarf women were supposed to have beards in Tolkien's Legendarium is a joke Aragorn tells about it's the beards when referring to dwarf women. It was literally a joke line from the fucking Peter Jackson movies that they got upset about not being carried over here. So we've got that. Amazon hiding the Rings of Power massive failure. So by thinking critical. Yes. Usually if a YouTube channel has thinking critical thinker or like a name that sounds super pretentious like that, then it's usually going to be, this kind of shit. Anyway, this is about like Amazon basically making it so you couldn't review the show until it was confirmed that you'd actually watched it, because people were review bombing it. I believe right now it stands at like a 36% in Rotten Tomatoes, which is really interesting. The Chuds have been propping up that 32% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes as if it's actually demonstrative of the show's quality. They won't even acknowledge the idea that it's being dishonestly review bombed. It's like, these are the fans speaking and they're trying to cover it up. It's so dishonest. It is very dishonest. Here we have The Rings of Power is underwhelming so far. Maybe this is a decent takedown, but judging off of the thumbnail, most takedown videos that use a thumbnail of a character making a funny face. Have you ever noticed that? That overwhelmingly, these dishonest takedown grift videos use like a picture of a character from the show, like a still where they're making a funny face. Overwhelmingly, that's what they do. We've got Ben Shapiro, who we just know categorically is incapable of making decent media analysis. Just some guy who's a Chud YouTuber. Rings of Power, worse than I feared. That is bullshit. There is no way that these people who have been saying this show is woke garbage since before there was even any promotional material out about it could claim it is worse than they feared. Jesus Christ, to the pain. Oh my God, how dramatic. Now, of course, Matt Walsh, that's nice. There's no actual constructive criticism here. You notice that, right? This is all grifters realizing that there is political gain and money to be made from shitting on this show, and they're taking advantage of it, and they're gonna milk it fucking dry. Let's look at Nerdrotic's channel. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, he's reviewing House of the Dragon Episode 4 with Mauler and Shadiversity right now. Mauler and Shadiversity, by the way, are both Chuds. They're both in the same tier as this guy. Look at these thumbnails, man. Holy shit. By the way, this guy was shit-talking this show literally weeks ago for being woke garbage because of Black Valyrians being in it and stuff like that. Like, literally right here! Like, wait... Like, you could... Here, he's actually, like, bolstering it. He likes the show here. Let's go back to where he's shit-talking it. Oh my God, 2 months ago, he uploaded so much. It's insane! Jesus Christ. Here's 2 months ago, Amazon's PR disaster, so 2 months before the show came out. Here's him shit-talking it again, 3 months before it comes out. Here's him shit-talking it again 3 months before it comes out. I like how this is a really good thumbnail. He gave Disa, the Black Dwarf woman, grills and I think those are Mr. T's hands, just judging off of the rings and the tattoos that I can see from here. It's a very small thumbnail. Very bizarre editing style this guy likes to go for with his thumbnails. It's really interesting that the general focal point... this is an interesting one right here. It's really interesting what the general focal point of this guy's thumbnails about these shows tend to be. Here we've got Disa with... Dude, do you guys remember the harassment that Leslie Jones got when they announced that, when that Ghostbusters 2016 movie was announced? Do you remember that? Sean head in chat right now, lurking, just cringing right now. You guys remember that, right? Like, this is no different. This is absolutely no different. Good Lord. Well, Mauler and or Shadiversity and or Nerdrotic, if you ever want to come onto my stream, then I'll happily have you on. We can have a little fun talking about your titles and your thumbnails. Is there a single one in which he talks about this show in which there's not an image of, like, someone who's a minority edited to look like a demon? Here we've got... Oh, here's him apologizing for his House of the Dragon videos. Wait, here it is. 10 days ago, House of the Dragon isn't bad. Episode 2 review. Oopsie. The only way he was able to make this video is because the House of the Dragon hate wasn't as strong as the hate for this show, so it wouldn't be as much of like a hit to his pride to admit he was wrong, you know? Because now you can transform so you can make money off of House of the Dragon is going to be woke garbage before it even comes out. And then when it comes out, alongside a different show that's even more popular to hate for being woke garbage, you can tout that as being your champion. And if it does well, then you can claim that it beat the woke show that you hate. And if it does worse, then you can claim that conservatism has once again been victimized by the woke culture. Woke Hollywood is consuming media. Everything has to be woke now, otherwise it can't survive. And either way, you can play victim or you can play winner. That's what these people like to do. You know what's even funnier, by the way? This is the first of 2 times I'm going to bring up No Bullshit, by the way. Do you guys remember the YouTuber No Bullshit? Mahler and these other guys are a lot like No Bullshit. I imagine if they see me saying this, they'll get really upset because they really hate No Bullshit, and I think I know why they do. I think it's because No Bullshit did exactly what they do. He does it their exact same grift, but exposes how dumb it is. He was too stupid to keep the very important, sort of shrink wrap of sincerity on top of his content when claiming that he actually, why he was making this type of content, He basically let loose that he's just a grifter doing it for money. The Quartering's done the same, just not as recently, and it didn't get as much attention. Regardless, though, if we look at No Bullshit's most recent video from November 2021, rip. Fucking rip. We can see we got some interesting new comments on the video. It's about Grand Theft Auto being woke or whatever, the remaster being woke. Here's some of the comments from the most recent on this video. There is absolutely no question that we need him back now more than ever. Dude, please come back. We need you in these insane times. Miss you, guy. Glad you stopped posting. We don't miss you. What happened to this channel? He quit posting. You okay, dude? Sucks you being gone. I always watch your videos before bed, lol. Thank God that's over. Whatever happened to this guy? Almost 600k subs and no videos in 9 months? What gives? We need yo ass to come back. Bro, you fell off so hard. I used to watch this channel, but I kind of left when he started attacking Christianity a bunch in his videos. I agree with most of his points, but he lost me there. Did your channel get taken down? YouTube kills another great channel. No BS, please come back. I'm raising my son to be a real man like us, and I need your wisdom. Where have you been at? Where are you? Dude, come back. Conservatism is stronger than ever right now. Oh, here's another one. Conservatism is at its strongest point in years now. You should come back, ideally with better content than this, though. Why did you stop uploading? You should come back now. Now's the best time to come back. Your channel would do great now. Oh, God. So, if you're ever wondering about what difference there is in the audience, the appeal, or even the content or type of person of Mahler or whoever we were just covering before, like Nerdrotic and No Bullshit, the now dead, literally mentally deficient cuck chud YouTuber whose channel's been dead for 9 months, there's no difference. There is no difference. They're just a little bit smarter and able to come off a little bit less like insincere grifters that are just doing it for the money. Maybe my opinion will be changed if I talk to them, but as far as I can tell, their thumbnails and the content of their videos that I've seen so far have not impressed me. But hey, if they're gonna milk the fuck out of a show that they claim to not care about but still hate in order to make as much money as possible, then I'm gonna milk the fuck out of their milking of a show that I actually like and am willing to defend because I genuinely am passionate about this show and I'm interested in it and want to see where it's going, and I want it to do well. I love Lord of the Rings. I never in my life have I seen Lord of the Rings fans so dedicated to wanting there to not be new fantastic Middle-earth content existing. It's actually insane. So yeah, when I do it, it won't be grifting, though, because I actually like this show and feel not only a political motivation to defend it because I want to dunk on the people complaining about minorities being in it, not just that, but also because I actually like the show and I care to defend it because I just like discussing it and it gives me an excuse to talk about it. So, to Nerdrotic, Mahler, and all of the chud YouTubers that are milking the fuck out of this completely fine, at worst, Lord of the Rings TV show, to make as much money off of the hate for a thing that you claim to love as possible, Here's what I'm going to say. Thank you for giving me an excuse to make Lord of the Rings political. Now I get to finally talk about one of my biggest passions, Lord of the Rings, on my political channel, because I'm an actual Lord of the Rings fan, and I actually like talking about it, and I actually like consuming Tolkien-related or Lord of the Rings-related content, unlike apparently you guys. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. If you watch this all the way to the end, actually, since I know this video is probably going to get massively, massively, massively dislike bombed and no doubt a ton of hate in the comments, drop a comment. I don't know, like, the effects of no bullshit have been a disaster for society. The effects of No Bullshit's YouTube channel have been a disaster for society. If you've watched all the way to the end, comment that down below to let me know you watched the whole video. With all that said, if you enjoyed, please consider dropping a like. It helps the channel out a lot, whether you're watching live or after the fact. It really, really does help. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, if you want to see more from me, you can follow my social medias, linked down below. Subscribe, ring the bell icon so YouTube actually tells you when I upload, or you can make an account on my website, xanderhall.com/live. And you can always donate, subscribe, or gift a sub there to help contribute to the White Name Genocide, as we like to call it. Or you can support me on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, or Patreon. But no matter how you support me, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.